So when I made Catching a Tiger, the first album that I released with Columbia in the UK and then on Fat Possum in the US, I didn't know my band yet. I'd never really properly played with a group. So I had all these songs that I took in to work with this producer, Jakir King, and we hired studio musicians. And, you know, through that first album experience, I think I really started to pay a lot more attention to what the other instruments were doing because I'd been like a singer-songwriter. So moving on from there, the band and I, we met 4 years ago, well, 2 of the 3, and then Jesse, the drummer's been with us for like a year and a half. Once I met them and we were just touring nonstop, I think my sound started to, you know, evolve and progress a bit as far as like wanting to be a little bit more rockin' or like aggressive in ways. So I think Back to Forever has more of those moments on it. I mean, it's still quite produced, but there were a few of the songs that we just played live in the room together, like on Cold Fish and Mountaintop Removal. So hopefully, like, that it's been sort of influenced by what I do live, and then also Garrett, Jack Knifley, the producer of this album, you know, really I think brought his own, like, stamp and, like, aesthetic to it. As far as, like, where I come in, I wrote a lot for a year. I was feeling a bit frustrated that things were sort of taking so long. So I think I had sort of my sassy moments and my sassy days, and I was listening to a lot of news. Like, I always have the radio going in my kitchen, I have NPR on, and hearing about, you know, various things that sort of get me all worked up. So there's sort of like, you know, a nice mix on this album of me talking about my past relationships, but from a perspective of like, as an observer, like I can see what I did wrong. And like, now I'm sort of hoping not to repeat those mistakes. And then also like, you know, I address celebrity culture and I address mountaintop removal and you know, sort of just the short-sightedness of human nature and, you know, dissatisfaction in the workplace. And so I think this album maybe is a bit more, you know, a little bit more aggressive and a little frustrated and a bit more urgent in times. But, you know, I just sort of try not to overthink it. I just write songs about what I'm feeling. It helps me feel better about stuff that upsets me or, you know, makes me mad, or if I feel lost, I write a song. That's my way of dealing with life. You know, it's, like, it's hard to analyze what I do, like, because I don't look at myself like other people would. So I feel like I'm like the last person to ask, even though it all comes from me.
I mean, how do you think people look at you?
I don't know. I think it's really all over the place.
Yeah.
I think that people. I mean, how does anyone look at anyone? I mean, you go into a restaurant and you see someone and you think you have this idea of like what kind of person they must be based on the limited amount of information you have. So I think, I mean, I'm pretty open and unguarded, so it's probably not that difficult if you watch something like this to get a basic idea of who I am. But I don't know, I think...
Such a Barbara Walters question on my part.
Yeah.
What do people think of you?
They think I'm a weirdo, probably. I don't know.
Is it hard to capture, like, I don't want to say magic because it sounds cheesy, but like the live performance in the studio? I would think it's a little difficult, no?
No, I don't think it's that difficult. I think that it's totally doable and it's something I want to really do more of in the future. I think it's a bit of a risk in like the current musical climate to try to think you can get away with it, but I think you can. And so I think if you have a relaxing sort of free-form experience in the studio, it's really possible to make magic. I think it's hard to make magic when everything is very like pre-scheduled and timed and like this is the song you're gonna do and this is how you're gonna spend your time. But that's sort of the struggle between like art and commerce because like, you know, you have to have some sort of structure if you're on like a schedule, but also I think the magic always happens on accident. So you have to put yourself in a position where you can be live and you can feel loose and free to like try anything. And so you can't create that. You just have to like be open to it. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard.
I would think so. But I mean, what about songwriting wise? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You can't just sit down and say, I'm going to write something, right?
You know, I keep telling myself that I'm going to just write a song every day, whether it's good or bad, just to keep myself going, and I totally procrastinate and I don't do it. Yeah, I think the best songs are just sort of things that, you know, if I'm working with another person with like just the music and like I'll come up with melody, then I kind of write the lyrics later. Sometimes that can be hard if it's like I know I need to finish lyrics. But But if I'm lucky, you know, if I'm doing the dishes or I'm walking, if I have this vague awareness of like needing to finish some words, I try not to focus too much on it. Try to do something else, and then usually it comes to me like, aha, I have it. Like, oh, you can rhyme this word with this word. I never would have thought of that, you know. So you have to be careful not to like force it, but you also can't like be lazy and not do anything. So it's like, again, finding that balance of like being spontaneous yet structured. Further away from it, please. I don't really remember. It's like a lot of times like I'll sing like a bunch of melodies and then I'll listen back to them and it'll become really obvious what my best ones that I came up with off the top of my head are. So it's like you have all these different pieces of things that are kind of good. And you know, like the Does Anyone Love Anyone Anymore? I think that was sort of a early thing that was said that like, you know, I came up with this guy Jim, that it was sort of, oh, that sounds a bit dramatic, but once, you know, you sort of put it into the song, it really fit. And you know, it was just me sort of telling them the story of like, I've been in the position to know, like, red flag, this guy is like not a keeper, like he's just gonna mess with your head for a few weeks or a few months before ultimately disappointing you. So, you know, why not just walk away now? And that's what the story was. So I was telling them about different, you know, funny instances or rejections that now I can laugh off. And then so it sort of just became this whole theme and like talking about, you know, okay, these different things, like, you know, it becomes so natural to feel disappointed and lost, you know, like grieving is natural as breathing, and, you know, get used to this feeling, and, you know, just writing lots of lyrics like that, and, you know, cheating, you're never gonna beat him, just shake him, you know, shake him like a demon, like just. And it becomes the song where I was sort of like in a position to be like, all right, I've been there. So now I can sort of be the romance police. Like I can warn someone, like, walk away, you know, it's a cautionary tale. But I don't, you know, it's hard for me to remember how I write stuff. It's like I get chunks of melodies and chunks of words, and then, you know, the background vocals in that song make such a huge deal. So that was like another chunk. So like in the chorus, there's these background vocals that really, I think, kind of drive the song as much as like the lead melody does in the chorus. So you just think it's like a puzzle. You have all these great chunks, and you sort of put them all together, and then you're almost finished. But then I'm like, oh, I don't think that line's quite good enough. So then I sort of will go outside and sort of walk around the block, and okay, I know what I need to say there. I'm going to replace this line with this line. But I just sort of think, you know, I've had so many like disappointing romantic encounters in my lifetime that I could write a million songs very easily about the topic. So they just sort of come out real quick. It's my own fault, though. I take responsibility.
Did you buy the domain for Romance Police? Because I feel like, I don't know, that could be like the...
It could be good. Maybe I should look into that. Your watchers, your viewers might steal the idea now.
I want to time capsule this a little bit. So it's basically the end of the year. Gun to your head, what will 2013 be remembered as?
I think a real transitional year. I think I felt a little bit between things. Like I've been a bit in limbo. Like even that the album is out now, like there's still like this sense where I feel like I'm firmly like between my past and my future right now. Now is like such a important time for me to I think like the lesson I've learned is like to just stop caring really about what anyone else thinks, and, you know, serve what is most creative and unique in myself. And going into 2014, like just have confidence in my ideas and do things exactly how I want to do them, because, you know, then I'll have no regrets. You know, even if I'm not top of the top, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to enjoy my life and be proud of what I do. So I think, I don't know, I'm being a little bit like cryptic, but I just think I think I've just really learned, like, I can't waffle. I have to be firm, and I have to, like, take my moment, because, like, I don't have forever anymore. That's why I wanted to go back to forever, but I don't have it anymore. It's not there. The window's closing. So it's like now I really have to be, like, firm about, like, what I want my life to be. So there you go.